What's up, y'all? Anderson here, and we are talking about the long jump, and specifically some potential long jump controversy. Last year, World Athletics, they introduced the idea, and it seems like it's now going to be implemented, where instead of using the long jump board that we've all known for, I don't know, over 100 years at this point, they're actually going to be introducing a takeoff zone, where athletes will now instead not be aiming to take off specifically from a board, but will be able to jump anywhere within a designated zone, and their mark from the zone to the sand will be measured exactly where their foot landed, instead of just from the board, the same place that everyone hits, to the sand. And this has brought up a lot of controversy. It's brought up a lot of confusion. A lot of athletes have spoken out. I've spoken to Miltiades Tentoglou, double Olympic champion, spoke to him last year indoors, and he was very critical of it. You see Carl Lewis, he's been very vocal and critical of it as well. And now we're actually going to see this take effect at a major competition indoors. This Sunday at the ISTAF Indoor Meeting in Dusseldorf on Sunday, February 9th, we're actually going to see this takeoff board used and implemented for the first time at a pretty major event. So I'm pulling this from Jumpers World. I'm going to talk about some of the athletes that they know. If there's a direct source, someone could, cross-check me in the comments. I'll probably put in the description if I do find, but I think Jumpers World has the direct sources with these athletes and the quotes. But World Athletics will test the new long jump takeoff format with a 40-centimeter board in Dusseldorf this weekend. It's going to be very interesting. Again, people and athletes have been very critical about this new zone because it's completely changing the event, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many other people as well. So we'll see how this actually does get implemented. So let's take a look at what Jumpers World said here. There will be a notable change to the long jump competition at the ISTAF indoor event on Sunday, the 9th of February, as athletes will take off from a wider zone and not the traditional board. The new takeoff zone, which is 40 centimeters long, was developed by World Athletics to reduce the number of fouls, create a fairer competition for athletes, and enhance the excitement of the event. The goal is to make the long jump more engaging for both competitors and spectators while minimizing invalid jumps. Now, this is one of the, I guess it's one of the critical points that people have had about this new takeoff zone. First off, the idea that it's going to reduce the number of fouls. People have seen that because of how long jumpers and triple jumpers and, jumpers who are competing in the horizontals, how they actually think about the event, this wouldn't necessarily reduce the amount of fouls. The skill of the long jump, of the triple jump, of any of these horizontal jumps, you're running, well, let's of course go with the long jump. You are running as fast as you can down the runway. You're building up all that speed, and you're making sure that you can hit that mark, right? You can make sure that your final step is going to jump off, get it perfect as you can up to the last point on the board to make sure you can launch yourself into the sand without hitting the plasticine, or at least, the lasers that they have now, without hitting that with your toe so that you get called a foul. If you're on the board, you're perfect, you're able to hit the sand, then you get a white flag and it's good. Here, there have been World Athletics is saying that there's been too many fouls that have been called over the past couple of years, and it's reducing the entertainment value, and et cetera, et cetera. But one thing that I think is really interesting is because that process of getting down the runway and the skill of hitting the board and taking off from it, that is ingrained and part of the event. Just because you introduce a new takeoff zone, that's not going to magically just switch how athletes actually approach the event. They're probably still going to try and get as far down into that takeoff zone as possible. That's what athletes are still going to do. There's a part of a long jumper that is looking to be able to hit that board, that is looking to get their foot, as far and as close to the board without actually getting over the line as possible. If they're just in a zone, they're not using the same skills that they were using previously in the traditional long jump. So that's why I think it's a really interesting development and kind of changing the landscape of how the event actually does work. And on top of that, they're saying that it'll create fair competition for athletes. I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily true. At the end of the day, all these athletes have a specific task and the same task across the board: running down the runway, hitting the board without going over the line, and landing in the sand, right? Everyone has to do the exact same thing. Maybe fair competition is saying, okay, everyone, despite whatever talent you have, or despite how tall or short or whatever it may be, all of that, you get a little bit extra zone to meet the needs of your specific talent and body, or whatever it may be. I don't know if that's the case with World Athletics, but it does seem a little strange to say that, it's making it a fair competition. Someone, again, could correct me in the comments if I'm thinking wrong about it. I think the long jump as it is pretty fair how it's actually implemented. But this weekend, the Olympic women's champion from Tokyo from 2021, Malika Mihambo from Germany, is among the athletes who will be in Dusseldorf this weekend to test off the new takeoff zone. And Mihambo said, quote, "I'm open to trying this out to determine whether it's meaningful, exciting, and beneficial." So there's some hesitation here, clearly. And yes, Malika Mihambo, 2021 Olympic champion, 2024 Olympic silver medalist, 2022, 2019 World Championship gold medalist, right? She's going to be trying things out, but for her to say trying this out to determine whether it's meaningful, exciting, and beneficial, I mean, World Athletics has been trying to sell this for a year or so. Yes, hasn't actually implemented it at a big meet, but if one of the top long jumpers in the world is like going to just try it out, see if it's exciting, I don't know. We'll see. But on the flip side, you have seen a few athletes actually speak out about it. And one of the athletes is Larissa Iapicino from Italy, who has withdrawn from the meet. They say European silver medalist Larissa Iapicino from Italy has withdrawn from the competition as she doesn't support this new change and how this new takeoff rule has been taken into consideration at all. Quote, "I had to withdraw from the competition after being informed of this new takeoff format just 8 days in advance. A change of this magnitude could have significant consequences, yet there has been no prior testing or proper evaluation. With such an important year ahead, I cannot take unnecessary risks. We had already informed the organizers that I'm working with a new run-up, and expecting precise accuracy in these conditions would not be wise." This kind of goes to what I said. The long jump, hitting the board, is a very specific skill that is part of the event. That is literally part of how the long jump works. And Larissa here is saying, we had already informed the organizers that I'm working with a new run-up based on how the long jump actually works. So continues on and saying, and expecting precise accuracy in these conditions would not be wise. So changing up the event is really going to mess with how someone has been working with their event. And we're not talking about something like, I don't know, the false start rule in the sprint events, where yes, it used to be, false start charge to the field and then, multiple false starts back in the day. Now it's just one and done, right? That's a little bit different than talking about how the actual entire event is run. Very, very different. So I can understand Larissa Iapicino actually not feeling comfortable with this, but she does continue and says, quote, "I'm strongly against this format. Long jump is defined by its technical demands, and altering the takeoff fundamentally changes the nature of the event. If this change is implemented, long jump will lose its essence and become an entirely different sport." My opinion, I completely agree. You're changing how the long jump works. And I know I've been saying it at the top, I've been saying it throughout, but you are really changing how the long jump actually works. The nature of the event, the precise technical aspects that go into preparing, training, and actually executing in a long jump competition. If you're changing one of the primary functions, which is the takeoff board, you're moving that into a takeoff zone, athletes are gonna have to completely adjust how they're training, how they're preparing, and how they're executing in these competitions. And like I said, you've had a bunch of athletes speaking out about this. Most notably has been someone like Carl Lewis. And Carl Lewis is in the comments here saying, "This will not change the distances and the fouling the way we think. This event is far more complicated than it is. I applaud the athletes with the integrity to not compete. This is a completely different event." Carl Lewis has been very vocal about it. And listen, I applaud Carl Lewis. I know he gets a lot of, hate, a lot of criticism, but listen, I applaud Carl Lewis. He has another comment on another post from Jumpers World, and he says here, quote, "Let's make this about and applaud the athletes who understand and respect the integrity of the event. Mark my word, this will not improve the distances like they think. Fouling is far more complex than anyone making these decisions understand. This will create new issues that will make the event worse. Mark my word." Again, I know people don't like Carl Lewis for various reasons. He's very outspoken, but to be honest, I think he's actually pretty honest, not only in this, but other takes as well. People actually, listen to Carl Lewis when he's talking about the relays and how, Team USA has had some issues, but I do like his premise here. Also, Miltiades Tentoglou. So a lot of us got a chance to speak with Tentoglou after he won the World Indoor Gold Medal at the World Indoor Championships last year in Glasgow, 2024. And after that competition, that is around the time that World Athletics announced these new changes in the long jump and potentially experimenting with the long jump zone, he was insanely outspoken. And in that interview, he said, quote, "If that happens, changing the format, I will stop doing the long jump. I will be a triple jumper." I'll put the clip up here.
Long jump right now is a very difficult event because you need to have accuracy and to be able to run like a sprinter and hit the board perfectly. This is the hard part about long jump. The jump itself, it's very easy. So they want to remove the difficult part, what makes long jump. They want to remove this and just leave the jump. So after that, long jump will be the easiest event of all time. And if that happens, I will stop doing long jump.
What was your reaction then when you first read or heard the story that they were looking at changing your event?
I mean, it's funny, it's funny. It's so bad, it's funny. I cannot say anything else. Thank God that triple jump exists, because that's what I'm doing after these changes happen.
So you can clearly see his frustration. I mean, listen, Tenteglu has, in my opinion, the right to be one of the more frustrated. He is the most successful long jumper over the past couple years since what? You're talking about since Dwight Phillips back in the 2000s, or, Irvin Saladino kind of in that same era, or even Ivan Pedroso from the 90s, from Carl Lewis and Mike Powell, right? Miltiades Tenteglu actually is one of the more dominant long jumpers. Double Olympic champion, two-time world indoor champion from 2022 and 2024. He's also the world champion from 2022, silver medalist in 2023. He is the most dominant long jumper over the past, 5 years at this point, and he is criticizing World Athletics for changing the event, just like Larissa Apacino for, she pulled out the meet, has similar criticisms, just like Carl Lewis, who is the undisputed GOAT of the long jump. But regardless, I think he has every right to be critical in terms of Tenteglu of the long jump and these changes and how this is going to fundamentally change the event. I know he's, of course, well, I don't know if he's joking, but moving to the triple jump, listen, they might be coming for the triple jump at that point too. That's a completely different event. And I don't even know if using a takeoff zone would work there, but the idea that we're just going to switch to a takeoff zone and expect the long jump to remain the same, expect, athletes to not foul as frequently, expect fans to find it a little more exciting. I don't know if it's exactly going to work with like that. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm, of course, going to be watching. I'll be checking out to see what goes down in Dusseldorf. And if someone like Milagi Mihambo, she's taking a sacrifice and trying out, this new format, being a former Olympic champion, a world champion, et cetera, we'll see how it actually goes. But I do actually appreciate athletes like Larissa Apacino, who is standing her ground saying, this event is very technical. I'm not going to, subject myself to, quote unquote, testing, this event out. Like Miltiades Tenteglu, who's been very clear, I'm the double Olympic champion. You want to change the event? Cool, I'm out. Or Carl Lewis, who is, of course, in my opinion, the GOAT of the long jump, and he's saying, you're changing the event. This is going to fundamentally change the event and not make it what you actually think it's going to be. I don't know, but let me know what you think about the long jump and these changes that World Athletics are actually introducing with the takeoff zone as opposed to the takeoff board. Do you think it's good for the long jump? Do you think that this is going to hinder the event? And do you think that if they actually permanently put this in place, the athletes will be able to adjust, or will we be watching something completely different? Let me know what you think. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Always appreciate y'all. Thanks for watching.